Welcome back to another edition. Here to join me at the table to talk a little NFL, Adamo Pulzone, Marc Louis, and Chris Corso. Guys, thanks for joining me. So, first thing we got to cover, Pats Jets. No, it's an interesting topic for us, Chris, especially with you at the table. But it's not the conversation we've been used to in past years. You know, I think we've had a few of these conversations over the years that we've been here that we come in and we're talking about the Pats beat the Jets, usual occurrence, you know? Not this week, unfortunately. 30-27 loss for the Pats in overtime to the Jets. Dom, I'll start with you. Why don't we get a little recap of the game?
Well, the main key factor in the game was definitely Geno Smith. I mean, obviously that penalty really killed New England in overtime, but it shouldn't have got to that point in the first place. Geno Smith really showed the Patriots defense for what they were. Geno Smith could run the ball. He could pass the ball. He was daring. He ran a rushing touchdown. He was the key player in that game for the Jets, and he really exposed the Patriots defense without a doubt. Patriots shouldn't have let it get to that point, but with the new addition of Andre Carter, I think the Patriots are going to be more prepared in the future. And, we'll see how it goes from there. But bad game for the Patriots in my book.
Yeah, if I could just add on to that, absolutely. It was just statistically not there for the New England Patriots at almost any point during the game to see. I mean, actually, to take that back, it's like, yeah, they got out to a 21-10 point lead at the halftime. But then after that, I mean, you know, the offense, they just got decimated by the Jets offense, 20-6 going into the second half. I mean, you look at Tom Brady's numbers. He completed 48% of his passes. That's not used to the numbers that we're used to seeing from Tom Brady. Absolutely not. And, like, third down conversions, they only completed 1 out of 12 third downs. I mean, absolutely. I mean, in the game, like, when you're only going to complete, like, 8% of your third downs, that game is yours to lose, absolutely. There's no way you can win in that league with third down numbers that bad.
Chris, what'd you catch in this game?
I agree, guys. I think Geno Smith actually outplayed Tom Brady. I'll repeat that one more time. Geno Smith outplayed Tom Brady, which was very surprising to see. You said he had 2 touchdowns throwing, 1 on the ground, threw for over 200 yards. He really showed that he can win a big game for the Jets, and this was a win or probably no chance of winning the division for the Jets if they didn't win this game. And now they're just 1 game back of the Patriots, who were undefeated a couple weeks ago. So to see the Jets rebound like this after losing Sanchez at the beginning of the year could have been a blessing in disguise. I definitely think so. So I would much rather have Geno leading my team with that defense than have Mark Sanchez the way he led that team last year. He's definitely less turnover prone, even though he still has some issues to figure out when it comes to throwing interceptions and controlling the ball. But I like Geno Smith much more with this team than I like Mark Sanchez, and I think that injury was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, this could be one of those victories for the Jets that we're looking back, maybe not necessarily at the end of this season, but maybe in future seasons as Geno progresses, that maybe this is a keynote victory for him that could really skyrocket his career future, because he's definitely proved more, I think, than what most people were expecting coming into the season. Done 500 record. I don't think many people would see that 6 weeks in. And to beat the Patriots for the first time in 7 games, I mean, that's a big deal as a Jets quarterback. So interesting to see how Geno will react with this win and see if he keeps that level of play. Another person's level of play I know a lot of people had an eye on was Gronkowski making his return and had a good game. He had, I think, 8 receptions, some around 150 yards in that area. So it was a Gronk-esque game. Didn't get his red zone touchdown people were looking for. Chris, what did you see out of Gronk in this game?
Well, the thing with Gronk was Tom Brady is obviously lacking some receivers this year. As we know, Amendola got hurt the week before with a concussion. No Wes Welker, no wide receivers when it comes to all the injuries. So we saw in the game against the Jets, Tom Brady was getting the ball, and he was looking right at Gronk every time. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
absolutely.
It was hard not to. It was pretty obvious that he was looking towards Gronk pretty much every time that they were throwing the ball. So this is definitely going to benefit Gronk when it comes to fantasy numbers. So keep him in your lineups, of course. He's definitely healthy enough to be one of the top tight ends in the league still, and he's going to get those targets every week. He's in and out. He's going to get those targets because, as we know, there's not enough options for Tom Brady right now when it comes to wide receivers.
I really think you guys are giving Gronk a little too much credit. Yeah, he had a good game for a normal tight end, but this is Rob Gronkowski, and he's one of the highest paid athletes in the game. So the Patriots aren't paying him to have a good game, to have a 114-yard game. They're paying him to get the touchdowns and to make those big plays. He should have easily have gotten over 150 yards last game and a touchdown.
He dropped
2 or 3 balls. One of them would have ended up as a touchdown had he caught it, but he said the sun was in his eye. You know what? It's part of your job. The ball touched both your hands. You're supposed to catch it, especially if you're Rob Gronkowski. I understand he's a little rusty coming back, from that surgery. I don't know, he's a mess from his forearms to his back, everything. But at the same time, you're ready to play. You got cleared to play. Do your job. If you don't do your job, you're out. Obviously Gronk's not out. He played a good game, and as far as fantasy-wise, he gave everyone 11.4 points, which is great for a tight end. But at the same time, this is Rob Gronkowski, and he needs to really step up.
Now, Mark, do you think that after this week, Gronk is going to continue to progress, or do you think maybe we're seeing an injured Gronk play right now?
Well, definitely. You take a look at what happened to Gronk. It definitely looks like 5 back surgeries and like a couple of nuts and bolts in his arm right there. But definitely what you saw from Rob Gronkowski this week. Again, with the 8 catches for 114 yards. Yeah, he should have had that touchdown. Yeah, it was. It was a very hard pass, to just jump up and reel it in with one arm. But honestly, this is a lot farther along. I think Rob Gronkowski. Honestly, I didn't think he was going to be this far along in his recovery. Yeah, he should have had that touchdown, but honestly, it's quite a lot. It's
Yeah, it was still a good performance. I got to admit, Adamo. I think you're being
It's
a little
good performance for an average tight end.
That's 6 weeks out. He's coming back. Getting back into the swing of things. So I absolutely I agree. It's with the tight end performance we're seeing in this day and age. That is a pretty average performance, especially from Gronk. Excuse me, but first week back. Give the guy a break. We'll see how he plays.
We'll see how he plays next week.
We will. We will
still have a
indeed.
long season left to go ahead of us.
Moving on, Broncos no longer undefeated. Not sure we thought we would say this early in the year with how that offense has been playing, but Peyton's old team, led now by Andrew Luck, able to overtake them, and really a great game. I'd say one of the games of the year so far. So with that being said, and we still have the unexpected Chiefs at 7-0. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Are the Broncos the best team in the NFL still?
It's really a give and take. Given what the Broncos have been able to do this season, yes, they have the most explosive offense in the league. They're easily closing in on 300 points right now, and only through about 6 or 7 games. That's a pace that's almost unheard of this day in the NFL. But you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. You definitely got to give it to them. They have been absolutely phenomenal so far this year to start off the season at 7-0. That game against Houston. They had the third string quarterback, Case Keenum out of Houston. Houston. They almost lost that game. They only won that game 17-16. But it's a really tight, it's a very close race in the AFC West right now. You definitely got. It's a toss up right now. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, it's some good football. Chris, do you see the Broncos as the top team in the NFL still?
You really can't argue against the Broncos being the best team in the NFL, but you got to look at the Colts. I know they lost Reggie Wayne this week, which was big, tore his ACL. Real big. He's one of their top targets, especially for Andrew Luck. They've had a great connection. But when it comes to Andrew Luck, you see he knows how to win games. And in his start, he's had, I think it's 22 starts in the NFL so far. He has 8 comeback fourth-quarter victories. That is an unbelievable stat. So for Andrew Luck to keep showing that he can win and to show that Peyton Manning-esque type of fourth-quarter play, I really think with this team and the defense that they have a very strong secondary. Chuck Pagano, I think, in my mind, is one of the best coaches in the NFL. So this team as a whole, they know how to win. They played Seattle tough the week before, and now they beat the Denver Broncos. I think that this team is definitely one of the best teams in the AFC. Definitely top 3 in the AFC.
Yeah, Andrew Luck is really starting to prove himself as maybe the most all-around quarterback when you throw in running and passing. Now, we got guys like Kaepernick who are clearly faster, but Luck is such a better passer than Colin Kaepernick is. He's one of the best passers in the league, and he moves better than Peyton. He moves better than Brady.
His rushing ability is the most underrated part of his game.
Exactly.
No one realizes.
He got 100 yards against the Broncos.
They talk about RG3. They talk about Russell Wilson. Nobody talks about this guy. He has shown that he can. He ran one to the end zone last week, and he's shown that he can move. He's a fast guy. He did it in college, and now he's doing it in the NFL, and that is the most underrated part of his game because you have to cover that, and then he'll beat you along with the long ball with guys like T.Y. Hilton, and he had Darius Hayward-Bays coming along as another option for him to throw to. So I really like the way he's been playing, and I think that the Colts are a team to be reckoned with.
I feel with RG3's decline in rushing big time and Kaepernick's decline in rushing, I think you're going to start hearing a lot about Andrew Luck and his rushing
Yeah,
ability.
and it's about time we do.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a fantastic Sunday night game, probably the best one so far this season, probably will be the best one all season. But at the same time, the Colts had a fire burning in them, and Peyton was coming back home, and they wanted to let everyone know it's still the Colts' house. It's Andrew Luck's time now. Peyton's gone, time to move on. So it was a great game, but as far as are the Broncos still the number one team in the league? Yeah, you have the Chiefs at 7-0, but at the same time, they barely beat the Houston Texans, who don't have a quarterback. They beat them by 1 point. So I still think the Broncos are number one, without a doubt. When you got a guy like Peyton Manning throwing to Wes Welker, Eric Decker, Julius Thomas, and, two of those guys can be hurt and you'll still have a solid team, you're good.
Yeah,
Broncos are definitely number one.
We know that offense is scary. I want to get back to your point you just made, though, about because this has been a lot of the argument going into that game that, the Colts have Peyton coming back in, so they have this fire burning. You had Irsay saying some really controversial comments about Peyton, about how they're happy they made that move even after all this, and they kind of good riddance with Peyton Manning. You don't think Peyton had some serious emotions burning in his belly too, coming back into that game?
He did, but I guess he didn't know how to play it. I guess he didn't know how to play it. I guess the fire was burning more in the Colts than Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I guess that defense too. That defense played some
That defense is very underrated. That no one really talks about the Colts defense. That secondary, they have a bunch of guys who can cover. You saw they held Peyton Manning to that was his lowest point total of the season. So they really have shown that defense has shown that they can contend with the best teams in the league. They did it against the Seahawks. They didn't win that game. The Seahawks won and pulled it out, but they've shown they put the two toughest teams, I think, in the NFL the past 2 weeks, and they've came out very great, and they look like they're stronger than ever right now. So.
To sum up what you just said, they pretty much just shown that Peyton Manning is immortal. He's not immortal.
He bleeds.
He bleeds.
He bleeds.
It can happen.
That's good to see. Well, as this year progresses, I guess the Colts are definitely going to be one of the teams to watch. Losing Reggie Wayne, brutal, but definitely fun to watch that team. Real quick, just to wrap up, want to touch on the Brendan Merriweather suspension. This guy's been in the news for the past 3 years about bad hits. Finally got rid of his money, and they suspended him 2 games instead of fining him. Dom, I'll start with you then. Just go down the line. What do you guys think of the suspension?
Honestly, Brendan Merriweather, he's just not a good player overall, and it's starting to show. His numbers are declining. His interception numbers are declining. He didn't have any last season. He only has 1 so far this season. He's on pace for 2 or 3. His tackles have dropped. Everything's dropping. So he's doing all these hard hits. He's making all these dirty plays just to still be in the game. Because you know what? He's really not that tough. He's kind of got a small frame. So, yeah, he's probably not going to be in the league after this contract runs out next year.
Marc?
Yeah, I think, as soon as, not maybe as soon as Brandon Merriweather got drafted into the league, but very soon after that, we all started to see that Brandon Merriweather was a very overrated safety that, can get exposed in one-on-one coverage when it really comes down to it. And especially in a league where they're really enforcing player safety, where they're saying you can't make these cheap shots to the helmets like that. What's the name that you keep hearing in the news more and more every single time about cheap shots? And I'm with Brandon Merriweather. I think it's a very well-deserved suspension. We'll see how his career goes from there. But honestly, I don't think it's going to go very well for him at all.
Chris?
I think he'll be gone pretty soon when it comes to Bill Belichick at the head. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be he definitely is going to be gone soon. I think Bill Belichick gets all that bad blood out of the clubhouse, and I think he'll be gone soon.
We'll see how they respond to this action that we are pretty comfortable, I should say comfortable, but pretty adjusted to seeing because it's happened so many times over the past few years. Guys, thanks for joining me. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back to preview the World Series.